The anime starts by showing us a remote village in the mountains, where a woman is giving birth to twins. The old woman helping her asks her not to give birth yet because it's almost dawn. The other woman assisting her tells the granny that she can't ask for something like that, but the old woman insists, saying that she has to do it, even if it's impossible. After all, these children will be the ones who command the demons. Later that day, a man sees the twin siblings and realizes that the children who sunder day and night have been born. 16 years later, one of these children, Yuru, is now in the woods, hunting a pheasant with his bow. The arrow lodges in the bird's neck, and just when Yuru approaches the pheasant to pick it up, he sees a condensation trail in the sky. He doesn't give it much importance, and just says that it's a beautiful dragon's fart. Yuru hops onto his horse to return to the village, where his friend Danji is already waiting for him. Danji is happy to see him, but he also scolds him for going hunting alone again without telling him. Yuru apologizes, and Danji asks him what he'd do if something happens to him all alone in the mountains, since he can't just call for help. Despite this, Yuru dismisses his concern and reminds him that if something happens, then the divine guardians right and left will protect him. Danji completely leaves the subject aside when he notices that Yuru caught a pheasant. He gets really excited and says that they can have grilled bird, but Yuru tells him that a hot pot is better because it's more satisfying. The other villagers welcome Yuru back, and he casually mentions that the weather looks like it's going to get bad. The man wonders if they're going to finally get some rain, since it's been a while, and Yuru tells him that he'll be back to help them with work later. After a while, he meets with the two women who assisted his mother when he and his sister were born. The old woman, Yamaha, welcomes him back, and Danji's mother scolds her son, saying that he should come and help him. However, as soon as he sees his mother, Danji runs away, so his mother complains and tells him that he should learn to be a hard worker like Yuru. Yuru asks the granny for his sister, Asa, and the old woman tells him that she's doing good, doing her duty properly as always. He decides to go where his sister is anyway to check on her, and Asa kindly welcomes him back with a smile, even though she's behind a cell for some reason. Yuru smiles back at her and tells her that he caught a pheasant today, though he doesn't really think that he's amazing at all, like she says. After all, he actually wanted to catch a boar or a deer because there hasn't been much rain this year, and he's worried about the harvest. There might be less food this winter, so he has to hunt more and make dried or salted meat. Asa asks him if the adults of the village will leave for the outside world to find work. Yuru tells her that something like that is possible, and she then asks him if he will go too. He immediately denies it and asks her why she thinks he trained himself to hunt. Yuru explains that if he becomes indispensable to the village for hunting, then he won't need to leave. Still, Asa asks the same question again, wanting to know if he won't leave like their parents did. Yuru asks her not to worry and assures her that he will never leave this village because as long as she's here, he will always be with her to protect her. Asa finally smiles, feeling much better now, and that's when Danji's mother enters the room to inform Yuru that Dara is here. Outside, a lot of people gather around Dara, who brought things from the people who went to the outside world to the village. He mentions that the economy is pretty bad out there and there is a pandemic as well, which is why he wants to trade with some herbs today. Some villagers trade their herbs for salt or some vegetable seeds that can grow in drought. A woman approaches Dara and mentions that her daughter will soon be 7, so he tells her that he'll bring a witch doctor next time in that case. An old woman tells him that she got some bad headaches lately, so Dara gives her the usual painkillers. When he sees Yuru, he asks him if there is anything he wants, but before he can even answer, Dara throws a beautiful tamari ball at him, knowing that Yuru would only want a souvenir for Asa. Yuru doesn't deny it and thanks him, and after Dara leaves, Danji mentions that he wants to leave this village too. Yuru just asks him if the world out there is really that great, and Danji reminds him that the people who left rarely return, so the outside world must be a pretty good place. Yuru tells him that he wouldn't be so sure about that, and mentions that he wouldn't mind living in this village his whole life. Danji knows that he's only saying that because he's got a cute little sister to protect, but he tells him that they should leave this place together in that case. He also mentions that if he's uneasy about it, then he could go with them, though Yuru clarifies that hanging around him would only corrupt Asa. Danji gets offended by the comment, but Yuru reminds him that Asa's got a really important job to perform. Despite this, Danji tells him that he's never met Asa in the first place, and Yuru explains that only certain people are allowed to see her, so an oaf like him will never meet her. Before they can continue with their usual bantering, Yuru sees what he thinks are perfect trails of dragon gas. However, this time, it's not the usual roar, since he's heard this a few times while hunting deep in the mountains, but it's kind of loud now. Danji asks him if he's ever seen a dragon before, but Yuru admits that he's never seen one. Before they know it, the sound of an explosion is heard, and what looked like a normal, deserted mountain before shows the outside world that there's a village hidden there. Both Yuru and Danji soon realize that what they thought was a trail of dragon gas is actually not being produced by a dragon, but a plane. Of course, they don't have the slightest idea of what that is, and soon, a helicopter also appears. All the villagers stare at the sky in awe, having no idea what's going on, and before they know it, they start getting killed, one by one. Yamaha sees everything and realizes that the barrier has been broken, and even though she doesn't know how, she knows that they're here for Yuru. She warns some villagers that they have to find Yuru and hide him right away, so she asks them to bring him to her. Danji starts panicking when he realizes everyone's dead, but Yuru inspects the bodies and starts running, asking him to stay close. Danji quickly runs after him and just hopes that his mother mother is alive. After running for a while, they come across two armed men wearing military uniforms. As soon as they see Yuru, one of them immediately informs his squad that they've found him. Yuru doesn't waste any time and uses his bow to shoot an arrow to each one of them before they can attack. Danji is almost shot by one of them, and even though they don't know what those weapons are, it's clear that it seems lethal. That's why Yuru quickly approaches the men to knock them out and continues running. Danji sees two helicopters and says that those dragons are near the outer area, but Yuru tells him that he doesn't think they can beat them, and he doesn't even know if those things are dragons. After a while running, the two of them reach the divine guardian statues, and Danji mentions that his mother is probably working at the keep like usual. Yuru approaches one of the statues and asks him to help him move some rocks out of the way. Soon, he manages to open a hidden door and explains that it's a shortcut to the keep. Danji had no idea there was such a thing, so Yuru reminds him that he said that the divine guardians right and left will protect them. They immediately take the shortcut, and Yuru just hopes that Asa is alright. In the meantime, a girl with a red jacket named Gabby approaches the remaining villagers outside and greets them with a smile. Everyone just stares at her, clearly scared and confused, but before they can do anything, Gabby just says one word, and one of the villagers' bodies is completely torn apart in a second. She repeats the same word several times, easily creating a sea of blood and body parts in the village by only saying the word gobble. Everything happens too fast, but the woman from before tries to run away with her daughter. However, Gabby easily kills her, ripping the head off her body after repeating the same word. The little girl stares at her mother's lifeless body in horror, trying to process what just happened. Gabby then approaches her with a smile and clarifies that she doesn't bite kids. A man who lost both his hands tries to escape the place, but Gabby kills him before he can get away, and his blood splatters around, traumatizing the poor little girl even more. Unable to bear all of this, the little girl passes out, and Gabby nonchalantly makes a call to inform her squad that the outer and middle areas are mostly secure, so they can send the ground forces up here. For some reason, she gets no response from the ground forces, and that's when we see that Dara took care of them himself. He's apparently not surprised about the situation and just wonders what he's going to do about this, since the barrier has been broken. Dara decides to make a call, and when he sees that it actually got through, he realizes that the situation is truly bad. He talks to a woman named Hana on the phone and asks her if she can see smoke from where she is. After getting her answer, he then asks her if they can change the rendezvous point because he thinks that Asa is here. In another scene, we see a woman dragging Yamaha's body to Asa's cell, and with no hesitation, she raises her fist to make the cell explode. The force of the explosion impacts directly on Asa's head, and Yuru arrives just in time to see his sister laying on the floor, motionless. He calls for her name in panic, and just then, the woman replies, calling him her brother and saying that it's her. She kindly explains that she's come to get him, but also to kill everyone else. Yuru is obviously confused, so he asks her what she's talking about because he doesn't understand anything, but there is no way that she's his sister. He immediately gets defensive and raises his bow to shoot her with an arrow, but the woman quickly dodges and counterattacks with another huge explosion. Meanwhile, Dara hides in the woods and sees the helicopters, noticing that they disguise themselves as mountain rescue choppers. He uses a gun to kill some of the enemies nearby, but he keeps an eye on the helicopters because he can't have them following him from above while he makes his escape. After a while advancing through the village, he comes across Gabby and sees the monster with her. Dara mentions that it has really beautiful teeth and then immediately points at it with his gun. Gabby realizes that he can actually see it, unlike others, and she quickly tries to attack him. Dara dodges the monster and tries to shoot Gabby, but she uses the monster to shield herself. The bullets are stopped by the monster's teeth, so Dara mentions that they have impressive enamel too. Gabby ignores his comment and just asks him if he killed the ground forces, but Dara takes her off guard by throwing a grenade at her. Back to Yuru, he ends up lying on top of some debris after the explosion, so the woman apologizes, saying that she only meant to break his arrow, but she's not used to this yet. When Yuru tries to stand, the Tamari ball he was saving for his sister falls and rolls until it ends up in front of her hand. Just then, Yamaha opens her eyes, and she sees the moment Asa's blood transforms into some kind of creature that takes a hold of the woman's arm. Yamaha immediately reacts and asks Dara to take Yuru and run. Before Yuru can react, Dara jumps into the building and grabs him, running away without giving him any explanations. Yamaha tells him that they have to hide in the world below, and he must not let them find them. Dara follows her instructions, and in the meantime, Danji finds his mother, clearly hurt, but alive at least. While he checks on her, he sees Yuru being taken away and just panics, having no idea what's going on. The helicopters are still surrounding the village, so Dara takes the shortcut from before, and after a while, he and Yuru come out of the Divine Guardian statues. He tells him that they're heading down the mountain now, but Yuru is still in shock from everything that's happened. He's having a hard time trying to process the situation, so Dara tries to drag him with him. However, he almost gets shot by one of the helicopters, so he immediately hides behind the statue again. Dara realizes that they missed their chance to escape, so he tries to shoot the helicopters with his gun. This obviously doesn't work, and the men on the helicopters are using high-caliber weapons, so they're clearly at disadvantage here. Dara mentions that if those dentures come back, they'll be flanked for sure, so the situation couldn't be any worse. worse. While he tries to think about what to do, Yuru is still in a state of shock, saying that Asa is dead. He starts questioning himself because of what he saw back there though, since he thinks he saw her move, but he's not sure. Yuru realizes that he left his granny behind too, and he starts wondering who that woman was, because she claimed to be his sister, but also said that she'd kill everyone, even though nobody's done anything wrong. Dara can see his inner turmoil, but the helicopters are still attacking, so he tells him that he doesn't have time to explain right now. Without wasting any more time, Dara gives Yuru a green pendant and asks him to use the left and right. Yuru has no idea what he means, so Dara explains that there is a hole in the flagstones between the left and right Divine Guardian statues, so he must stick the pendant in there. Yuru is still completely clueless, so he gets a little frustrated and says that he doesn't understand. Dara gets equally frustrated and tells him that it's a gift from him, so he just has to do it. Yuru doesn't know what's going on, but he grabs the pendant either way and heads to the flagstones between the left and right Divine Guardian statues, complaining about the fact that no one will explain anything to him today. He sees the hole Dara was talking about and immediately complains, saying that it is plugged with junk. Dara yells at him and simply asks him to dig it out in that case, because they don't have any time. The men on the helicopters see Yuru, so they order the others to capture him and eliminate the other villagers. Yuru quickly digs the junk out of the hole and Dara complains, saying that they should keep their place clean. After a few seconds, Yuru finally manages to get the pendant inside the hole, so Dara immediately grabs his head and smashes it against the flagstones with force. Yuru obviously complains and asks him what that was, but when his blood makes contact with the pendant, the right and left Divine Guardian statues start glowing brightly. Everything turns white for a second, leaving the men on the helicopters confused. Before they know it, the helicopters are shaken and destroyed by something they can't even see. Yuru sees golden creatures holding onto the helicopters and tearing them to pieces with wild strength, but he doesn't know what's going on himself. When the golden creatures harshly bite onto the rotor blades, the helicopters finally start falling. Dara immediately runs away with Yuru before they're crushed, and Gabby sees everything from afar and screams, saying that those helicopters were her ride home. That's the only thing she cares about though, because walking down this mountain is going to be awful for sure. She wonders whose demons those were and hopes that they're weak at least. When Yuru finally recovers after the blast, he hears another man speaking, saying that their new master apparently is a child, so he will be easy to control. The woman next to him reminds him that his age doesn't matter, because they must obey their master. Yuru stares at them in shock, and he soon realizes that they are in fact the right and left guardians. Dara explains that there isn't a single name for them since everyone calls them something different, whether it's ghosts, spirits, monsters, cryptids, aberrations, or pairs. Whatever their names truly are, Dara lets Yuru know that those two are his demons. In a change of scene, we see a fragment of the past, when Yuru's father is showing him the passageway connecting the left and right to the keep. Yuru had no idea it existed, so his father explains that the Lord had this secret passageway made back when this village was a castle. He warns him that only a few people know about it, so he must not tell anyone about it, and he must use it only when he has to. When they get to the end of the passageway, Yuru's father tells him that the left and right bases at the village exit are above them. He also informs him that the left and right are always watching over him. Back to the present time, just as his father said, right and left let Yuru know that they've been watching him this whole time, and henceforth they are his demons. Yuru can only stare at them in disbelief, and Right decides to just tease him, saying that this crybaby is apparently their master. Left scolds him and warns him that he's upsetting their master, so he should stop teasing him like that. Right recognizes Dara as the demon retainer, and Left lets him know that they've been watching him too. Yuru is still too shocked to speak, and Right explains that they took down those birds since they seemed to be harming him, but they don't know what they were. Dara informs them that they're vehicles of the modern world below, but he clarifies that they don't have to chat about anything now. He mentions that at least 2 threats have shown up, so he wants them to help them get down the mountain quickly and safely. Right and Left remind him that he is not their master, and they only obey Yuru's orders. Dara gets a little frustrated and clarifies that he already knows that, but there is no time to explain the situation to him. Just after he says that, Gabby shows up and mentions that those demons look strong, so she wants to know whose demons they are. Yuru asks what that tooth monster behind her is, but Dara just panics when he realizes that Gabby already caught up, and she's perfectly fine even after he hit her with a grenade. Gabby just calmly walks towards them and asks them not to underestimate her demon's toughness. She sees Yuru and mentions that he must be Ace's brother, since he's 16 years old. Yuru corrects her and clarifies that he's 17, but Dara explains that by traditional counting, the world below considers him 16. When Gabby mentions Asa, Yuru can't help but remember all the disaster that happened in the village, and when that woman told him that she'd kill everyone. He then asks her if they're the ones who killed the villagers, and Gabby admits it without hesitation. Right and Left remind him that he just has to give the word, and they'll do whatever he commands. Yuru tells them that he won't command them to do anything, because they're the village's guardian deities, so he wouldn't dare give them orders. However, he does mention that he has 2 requests, and clarifies that if there are any survivors in the village, he wants them to take them to a safe place. His second request is that the runt is his, so he doesn't want them to touch Gabby. Lastly, Yuru tells them that they can do as they please aside from that. Right just laughs at his request, clearly clearly pleased, and he tells Left that they're really lucky since their new master is apparently hands-off. As they leave to follow Yuru's command, Asa is still dealing with the blood creature from before. She uses her free arm to throw Yamaha's body across the room, slamming her against the wall. The blood creature immediately releases her arm to protect Yamaha from the impact in time, so Asa decides to leave, not before telling her that they'll never forgive her and that she'll pay for what she's done. As soon as she exits the building, Asa notices Donji and his mother hiding somewhere in the village, but she decides not to do anything against them. Meanwhile, Right gets really excited and jumps straight towards Gabby without hesitation. Gabby rapidly uses her demon as a shield, but Right jumps right above her and informs Yuru that he'll take the remaining villagers to a safe place. He also asks Gabby to watch out, saying that his other half is hot-blooded. As soon as he says that, Gabby looks down and sees how Left slams her demons against a wall after kicking a rock at them. Left clarifies that she's just following her master's orders, doing as she pleases. Before Gabby can react, one of Yuru's arrows pierces straight through her leg, and he immediately prepares a second arrow. Gabby falls, but she manages to make her demons grab her in time to escape the place as soon as possible. Left admits that those demons are tough, since they survived her attack. Yuru quickly chases after them, and Left follows him without a doubt, despite Dara's complaints. Dara knows that he can't stop them at this point, so he quickly grabs the green pendant on the ground and follows them, hoping to convince them to get off this mountain already. In the meantime, the poor little girl who saw her mother getting beheaded and passed out wakes up after hearing Right's voice. Right notices that she's alive and wipes the blood off her face, saying that it must be someone else's blood since she's uninjured. The little girl sits up in confusion, looking around her to try to see who's talking to her. Just then, Right remembers the fact that she can't see him, so he decides to make himself visible and tells her that he's not a monster, so she doesn't need to worry because he'll take her somewhere safe. Before he can even finish his sentence, the little girl simply passes out again, so Right takes her to the other kids who also passed out when they saw him. Right is a little hurt by their reaction because they all fainted as soon as they saw him, even though he was just trying to help. As he exits the building, he mentions that the enemy showed no mercy to the adults, but they didn't hurt the kids for some reason. Asa casually runs into him, and Right can immediately tell that she can see him, unlike the other kids. However, without a word, she runs towards him and uses her power without holding back. Right reacts just in time and counters the attack with a powerful shout that completely overpowers her. He then complains that she didn't even say a word, but he admits that she's got a dangerous power. Asa soon realizes that she doesn't have a chance against him, so she simply flees as soon as she gets the chance. Right doesn't bother chasing after her because he has another task in hand, but he does complain about the fact that kids these days just don't listen. Meanwhile, Gabby tries to hide inside a building, using her demons as a door, but Left tries to open them with her strength alone. Gabby is having a hard time keeping them closed, and she can't believe that Left is actually overpowering them since it's two demons against one. Left soon manages to slide her hands between the demon's teeth, and with her sheer strength, she's capable of opening their teeth. Before Gabby can react, Yuru shoots her a second arrow that pierces her shoulder. Asa arrives just in time to take down the building with her power, making all the heavy debris fall on Left. She then quickly checks on Gabby, but Yuru points at them with his arrow and asks them not to move, wanting to know who they are. Asa tells him that she's his sister, but Yuru calls her a liar and clarifies that Asa is not that big. She explains that the world below has better access to nutrition, but Yuru then tells her that Asa doesn't glare like that. She simply admits that she's been through a lot, so she's a little jaded. After a second, Left easily comes out of the pile of debris like nothing happened, and Right soon catches up to them, saying that it isn't good for family to fight. He lands right in front of Asa and informs Yuru that this girl's blood smells just like his, so they truly are siblings. Yuru is clearly shocked by the information, but he doesn't lower his guard and asks them who's the Asa up in the keep in that case. Without beating around the bush, Asa informs him that that girl is just an imposter. She then explains that 10 years ago, after their parents took her and fled the village, Yamaha and the others feared he'd run away too, so they created an imposter to keep him here. After all, he's a kind and caring older brother, so he wouldn't leave as long as Asa was still in the village. As she tells him this story, we see that the other Asa in the keep suddenly stands up, but she doesn't look human at all. Asa informs Yuru that the other one is fake, so they've been lying to him all his life. Yuru has a hard time trying to process this, and he still doesn't want to believe it, but Dara makes him lower his bow and talks to Asa, saying that now that they've had their touching reunion, she should finally back off. Yuru tries to protest, but Dara reminds him that he's the one they're after, and they still don't know what the allegedly real Asa is capable of, so if he stays, the village could suffer more damage. Yuru finally relents after hearing that, because he knows that there are still survivors, and he doesn't want to put them at risk. After he lowers his bow, he asks Asa and Gabby not to hurt any more villagers, and clarifies that he'll let them go, so they should withdraw. Asa surprisingly agrees, even though Gabby complains, so Yuru finally leaves with Dara, being followed by Right and Left. As she treats her wounds, Gabby asks her why they aren't capturing him, and Asa explains that her wounds need tending, and they know that he's safe now. Gabby's demon suddenly rips the arrow off her shoulder, making her grunt in pain, but Gabby simply smiles and mentions that Asa's brother sure is merciless. She admits that he's skilled, and he's alive as well, though she says says that only to reassure Asa in some way. Asa soon starts tearing up, realizing that her brother is actually alive and well. Gabby just gives her some head pats as consolation, and she then notices that the barrier is returning, so they should get off the mountain quickly. We see that Yamaha is the one who takes care of restoring the barrier, while the other Asa stands quietly behind her, looking the same as before. In a change of scene, we see a couple of hikers at the old Higashi village trail, talking about the helicopters they heard before. The woman mentions that maybe someone needed rescuing, since a lot of people go missing in these mountains, and a bunch of them have never been found. The man tells her that it's probably like that spooky story, the one about the lost village. They say hikers suddenly wander into another world, and there's a village where there shouldn't be one, so even if they go back later, there's no trace of it. Just after he finishes the story, Dara cheerfully greets them and runs down the trail with Yuru. The couple assumes that they're mountain porters, or maybe traditional hunters. They're clearly not worried about them, but when right and left fly right above them, the couple panics at the strong wind that hits them, even if they can't see them, so they decide to hike back down immediately. Meanwhile, as they continue running, Dara mentions that they can't see the village anymore, so it must be back inside the barrier. Yuru asks him if that means they can't go back, and Dara clarifies that he could if he really wanted to, but someone who knew where to find it broke through the barrier. They were after him, so there is no point in hiding there now or going back, so they'll have to blend in with the crowd in the world below. After a while, they finally reach the end of the mountains, where Dara's co-worker, Hana, is waiting for them in a car. He thanks her for waiting for her, but Hana exits the car only to complain, saying that she knew he was bringing a human, but he didn't mention demons. Right and left soon realize that she can see them, and Dara apologizes for not telling her. He clarifies that he'll fill her in while they run, because they have to get out of here now, since Yuru is in danger. Hana assumes that Yuru is one of the twins, and Dara lets her know that those demons are left and right. As soon as they turn to look at them, they just see left and right inspecting her car with curiosity, wondering what it is, since it looks like just a hunk of metal. They're not even listening to them, so Hana decides to introduce herself, telling Yuru that she and Dara work together as demon retainers. Dara speaks to right and left, asking them if there are any demon wielders nearby. They inform them that there are none, so Dara sees it as the perfect opportunity to escape somewhere crowded. He asks Yuru to get in the car, but Yuru seems reluctant to do so, since he doesn't know what that thing is, and he doesn't want to get inside this bizarre contraption. Dara understands his confusion, so he tries to explain that it's called an automobile, a vehicle of the world below made of metal and stuff. His awful explanations aren't working at all, so Hana decides to start the engine and simply tells them that there are horses in the car, so it goes real fast. Right and left easily accept her simple explanation, so Yuru finally accepts and gets in the car. In the meantime, Gabby and Asa are out of the barrier in no time, so they're now waiting for their ride to get out of there. After a while waiting, Jin Kagomori finally arrives with a rescue group to transport Gabby. He mentions that he heard new demons showed up, so perhaps he should have come with them. As they load Gabby onto the stretcher, he asks her how her wounds are. Gabby calmly informs him that they've stopped bleeding, and mentions that she's got an arrowhead in her shoulder, so she hopes they can take it out later. She sits up without any help, and also tells him that the shot to her leg went straight through. Jin tells her that those are serious injuries, so she shouldn't talk about them like they're minor cavities. Gabby dismisses his concern, and tells him that she's fine, since she's used to pain. Leaving that aside, Jin assumes that Asa's brother got away, but Asa clarifies that they confirmed that he's alive and well. Jin mentions that they secured all the trailheads, but they didn't see him anywhere, so they must have escaped another way. There's also still a chance they're still on the mountain, but they lost 2 choppers and all their soldiers. Jin starts feeling a little frustrated because he knows that the old man won't be happy. Gabby tries to cheer him up and informs him that Asa's brother fled with a middle-aged guy called Dara, and he's probably the one who killed the soldiers too. As soon as he hears that name, Jin immediately knows that she's talking about the Tadera. He wonders why they had to choose a day when a Tadera demon retainer was around. Jin's expression changes abruptly, letting them know that he's now furious, and he thinks that he should have brought his demon after all. Meanwhile, Dara informs Hana that they released the left and right, took down some choppers, and knocked out the enemy demons on their way here. He mentions that he took out most of the soldiers he found, but there were a bunch of them. Hana can't believe that they even brought soldiers, and Dara explains that it's probably the Kagamoris. To make things worse, they know his face and name now, so he apparently will have to shave and move as well. Hana just complains, saying that she wanted to live her life in peace. After a while, left and right knock on the window and let them know that they sense demons approaching. Hana immediately panics, but left clarifies that they don't need to worry, since they mean no harm to them, and they're actually old friends. Just then, a beautiful woman on a white steed floating in the air shows up to greet left and right, saying that it's good to see them again. She mentions that if they're here, it's probably because they found a new master. Right and left affirm that, and they mention that they haven't been down the mountain in so long, they have no idea what's going on, since it's been about 400 years. Right lets her know that Yuru is their new master, and the woman seems pleased to know that since she loves children. He informs her that Yuru is one of the twins dividing night and day, but the woman remains silent for a moment, and then says that that won't be easy. She asks them what they'll do now, and Right tells her that they're not sure, since it seems they'll be hiding in a lively village. The woman finally finally leaves and asks them to tell her about it when they return. In the meantime, Dara and Hana completely freak out because that's the first time they've seen them. Yuru just asks them what those things are, but Dara and Hana immediately scold him, asking him not to call them things. They inform him that that was Oshirasama, a legit god on a whole other level from their average demon. They never thought they'd see them while they were still alive, and they're really glad to be alive now. Left and right just complain about their reaction because they don't understand the disparity in treatment. Hana mentions that there are kinds of demons and humans, just like sorting them into genres, as in types or categories like gods or spirits. Some live relaxed lives alongside humans, like Oshirasama, others bring luck to their masters, and some encourage criminal activity. Dara says that those dentures that attack them were probably a combat type, since the upper and lower jaw form a pair. He's even heard of demons gobbling up their masters if they don't like them. In a change of scene, we see the rescue team carrying Gabby out of the mountains. Despite how things went, Jin assures them that the old man will be happy to know that Yuru is alive and off the mountain. He asks them if the demons were really that strong, and Gabby affirms that, but she clarifies that it was Asa's brother who shot her with a bow. He first shut down her mobility and then her dominant hand, so he definitely has the mind of a hunter. Once the sun goes down, it starts raining in the mountains, and two soldiers who survived are trying to get out of there. However, after walking endlessly, they soon realize that they've been at the same spot 5 times already, which means they can't leave the mountain at all. Yuru is still in Hana's car, trying to process everything, but his eyes light up when he sees the city lights for the very first time. Once they get to the city, Hana gives Yuru some food and a change of clothes, because he'll stand out dressed like that. Yuru takes a plain white t-shirt out of the bag in confusion, wondering if it's some kind of tunic. Hana simply plays along and tells him that it's indeed a tunic, and she also gives him a normal pair of pants, saying that they're like a hakama in order for him to understand. Dara then gives him some sandals and explains that they wear that kind of footwear down here. Hana notices Dara's new outfit and mentions that the small-time thug look suits him. Yuru asks what else is in the bag, and Hana tells him that he surely knows what rice balls are. However, Yuru is completely shocked that it is 100% white rice with no millet and that they're wrapped in real seaweed. He nervously asks if these aren't luxuries for them, but Hana is completely speechless. Dara sighs and admits that these would indeed be luxuries in that village, so he doesn't blame him for his reaction. Yuru doesn't even know how to open it, so Hana helps him with it and easily takes off the plastic wrapper so he can eat the rice ball. When Yuru takes the first bite, he immediately shouts about how good it is, saying that this is the food of the gods. Hana can't help but smile at his reaction, and Dara decides to give him even more rice balls. She teases him and asks him if he's Yuru's auntie or something, but Yuru suddenly stops eating when he remembers what happened, and he says that he wishes Asa could eat this too. Before they can say anything, Wright asks them what this place is, and Dara explains that it's called a rest stop, like a modern stage station. He mentions that they can find food shops and latrines inside, and they can buy local souvenirs as well. Dara just then notices that Right and Left are attentively listening, and they seem pretty excited, so he invites them to check out the inside. However, Right and Left instantly decline, saying that they'll stay with Yuru so they can go eat by themselves while they keep an eye on him. Dara accepts the offer and leaves with Hana, who just asks them not to touch the driver's seat. Right asks her if she doesn't need to feed the horses inside the car, so Hana just tells him that she'll feed them oil later. Once they head inside, Hana asks Dara how much he told Yuru, and he tells her that when he told him that girl wasn't his sister, he lost his mind, so it's better not to say more. Hana admits that he's really nice for that, so Dara reminds her that Yuru is still just a kid. However, she tells him that she wouldn't understand since she doesn't like kids. After she finishes her meal, she asks him what they'll do now, wanting to know if she should take them both to his place. Dara discards the idea and explains that they know his face and name now, so he's ditching that spot. Hana can't believe that he's homeless and caring for someone else's child now, and she admits that it sounds rough. Dara clarifies that this is her problem too, so as a Higashi village demon retainer, she'll be helping him. Hana just tells him that she'll do what she can, so Dara straight up asks her to marry him. After a long moment of silence, Hana's expression turns terrifying as she wears solid metal knuckle dusters on her fingers, saying that these are their wedding rings. Dara immediately pales at the sight, asking her if she always carries that around. Hana quickly loses her composure and raises her voice, asking him why she has to marry him. Dara tries to make her calm down and explains that it wouldn't be for real, because they have to blend in with society so they can protect Yuru. Rumors about outsiders spread like wildfire in the country, so they need a decently big city, but he's not confident he can do it alone. Hana is still fuming with rage, and she tells him that they don't need to get married to do that, since they could just be roommates. Dara clarifies that it's easier to rent a house as a family because people trust families way more. Hana quickly tells him that she could be Yuru's much older sister in that case, and he could be their single father. Dara explains that people would talk about them, and they would think that he's a dad whose wife dumped the kids on him and ran away. They would then suspect that his wife left him because of cheating or something worse. They could also think that he's actually a heroic dad raising his kids alone after his wife passed, and they would want to help him out of pity. Either way, it would attract rumors and attention among the neighbors, so they'll go with the story that Yuru is his kid and he remarried a younger woman. Hana clarifies that she still hasn't accepted, but Dara ignores that and asks asks her who will be the head of their household and whose surname they'll be using. Hana screams in denial again, saying that she's already decided that she's marrying Jason Statham. While she crashes out, right and left observe the car with curiosity, wondering where they keep the horses inside this little box. Left admits that the modern world below's technology is amazing because she doesn't comprehend how it works. Yuru gets out of the car to talk to them and apologize, saying that he's hogging all the food, but he didn't ask if they were hungry. Right smiles and admits that their new master is nice, and Left lets him know that they don't eat human food. Yuru then asks them what he should call them, and Right tells him that he can call them whatever he wants, and he could even give them new names. After thinking about it for a bit, Yuru just settles for calling them Right and Left, and then cuts to the chase, asking them to tell him everything they know about him and his sister. Right starts by saying that they sat at the entrance to Higashi village for 400 years, so they only saw the people who came and went, and they don't know much about what happened inside the village. The villagers mentioned the twins had been born, and they started seeing him after some time. Right mentions that his father used to take him hunting when he was a little thing. Yuru remembers that and says that his earliest memories are of him teaching him to hunt. Left tells him that they hardly ever saw the other twin, so they assumed she had died of an illness or something shortly after her birth. However, about 10 years ago, they saw his parents flee the village with a girl. Left mentions that she was a little girl, with blood that smelled just like his. Yuru assumes that that little girl grew up and attacked the village, though he thought their parents had left both of them behind, and it turns out it was only him. A long silence follows after that realization, but Yuru raises his head with determination, saying that this just means the self-proclaimed real Asa might know where their parents are. Dara and Hana return after a while, but she's still completely seething in rage as she informs Yuru that they're going to be his guardians for reasons. Yuru doesn't entirely understand what that means, so Hana just tells him that they're responsible if he ever gets into trouble. Dara then informs him that they'll be riding for a while and asks him if he needs to use the latrine. Yuru denies it and points at some bushes, saying that he already went over there. Hana instantly freaks out, saying that he's already getting into trouble. That aside, she asks him not to sit on top of the car because he'll attract attention that way. Yuru doesn't understand why he shouldn't, since Right and Left have been sitting up there all this time. Hana explains that normal humans can't see demons and only demon wielders like him can see them. Left then mentions that demons can make themselves visible to certain humans, and some people just happen to possess the ability to see them. After they leave, Yuru decides to ask some questions in the car, wanting to know if the Kagamori clan are demon wielders. Dara confirms it, saying that they've got few and they're a nuisance. He explains that they left Higashi village and established themselves in the world below. They're like a branch clan of the village who left the village over differences in opinion. Hana admits that she would rather not get involved with them, and Dara mentions that in the world below, there's a network, like a web of former Higashi village people. For a while, they'd heard rumors that one of the twins was with the Kagamoris, and that turned out to be true. In a change of scene, we see a woman named Aoi running away from someone in a building in a big city. The hallways are completely dark and empty, and the only thing she can hear are the steps of that man. When she realizes that he's getting closer, she gets on the elevator and desperately tries to close the doors. Right at the last second, the man forces the doors open and steps on the elevator with her, saying that she shouldn't be running from him. Aoi panics and asks him to stay away, but the man explains that he needs to get closer to kill her. The elevator doors close behind him, leaving her with no escape as the man slowly approaches her. Aoi asks him to stay back, and the man smiles when he hears the panic in her voice. However, Aoi's voice suddenly gets distorted as she asks him to stay away, warning him that if he comes any closer, he'll step into her territory. Her face then morphs into something inhuman as her body elongates like a ghost. The man freezes in terror at the sight, and without noticing, a giant anglerfish emerges from the floor beneath his feet. At the same time, Jin calmly walks upstairs in the building as he makes a phone call to the real Aoi. He informs her that he has resolved the matter with her stalker, and he made him promise to never come near her again, so she can go back to work now. The man in the elevator is suddenly grabbed by countless hands coming from inside the anglerfish, and he doesn't even have the chance to fight back as those hands drag him down, letting the anglerfish swallow him whole. Just then, the elevator doors open, and a poor woman who was just trying to get home sees the giant anglerfish floating in the air. The terrifying anglerfish swallows the knife on the floor, leaving no evidence, and the poor woman just stands there, paralyzed in fear. Jin suddenly speaks from behind her, noticing the fact that she can see them, so he just asks her to stay quiet. Back to Yuru, Dara tells him that Hana and he haven't been told much either, since their families have lived down here for generations, and they just inherited this job from their predecessors. He mentions that Yamaha only insisted that no outsiders learn where Higashi village is, and that the twins not fall into anyone else's hands. Dara explains that he procures goods and relay information, and Hana does odd jobs down here, so she's never been to the village. Dara clarifies that he doesn't know what Yamaha and the elders are thinking, but as a Tadara, he has to respect the clan's rules. He also mentions that his real name is Tadara Ryu, but he can keep calling him Dara. Yuru tells him that Yamaha seemed pretty upset about them trying to take him, and she made that clear with him too. Because of that, he decides to ask him what he and his sister exactly are. Dara explains that when a twin boy and girl are born in a village to the east on a day when day and night are equal, the world will be torn apart. apart. Right mentions that, as far as they know, the last time that happened was 400 years ago. Twins dividing the day and night were born in that village, and during that era, the nation was split into east and west in a major war. Before that, the nation was split into north and south by another war, and in both cases, demon wielders were involved behind the scenes. With that, Yuru understands that they're cursed children who will throw the world into chaos, but Right tells him that it's actually the people who want to use their power to start fighting. That only confuses him more, because he doesn't have any special powers, but Right clarifies that that's only for now. Left then tells him that he has the capacity to gain power, and Dara mentions that Asa has probably already acquired it. Right experienced it himself back in the village, so he explains that Asa acquired Break, the power to forcibly unravel anything. That power easily forces anything open, whether it's a powerful barrier or something else. Left explains that its twin is Seal, the power to forcibly close anything. Hana wonders what happens when Break and Seal collide, but Dara just tells her that it's a real paradox. He then asks them if anyone has ever acquired both powers at once, and Right and Left tell him that no one has, as far as they know. That means that nobody knows what would happen, but Hana asks if it's possible that rumors about something happening have taken on a life of their own, and the villagers are being manipulated. Yuru gives it some thought, because there was a barrier around the village too, but Dara was still able to come and go. Dara explains that there's a specific route to get through. He had to go counterclockwise around some specific rocks a certain number of times, then go right at the crossroads, turn back at the next, and go through the valley to make a 90-degree turn at some big tree. Dara admits that it was a real nuisance, but his clan knows this route, so he can freely pass through Higashi village's barrier. He tells Yuru that his mother is from down here and stumbled upon that route to the village. It happens every once in a while. While lost and wandering, some people happen upon the village, and that's how his mother got there. Yuru then remembers when he was a little kid, and his mother told him that in the place where she was born and raised, his name means night. Back then, she also told him that she hoped someday she could take him, his father, and Asa there. After some time on the road, they take a rest stop, and Yuru is kind of having a hard time understanding how to use the bathroom. He remembers Dara's words and follows his instructions, flushing the toilet when he's done, washing his hands, and then drying them. Yuru hesitates before doing the last step though, and he doesn't even want to get near the hand dryer because he doesn't like these loud things that roar like dragons. He decides to just dry his hands with his clothes, skipping that last step before turning the lights off, since Dara also told him that he had to extinguish the lights in any room he's not using. Once he steps out of the public bathroom, Yuru feels proud of his achievement because he has learned all the rules to using the latrine in the world below. He still finds it amazing that people don't have to draw water from a well down here. Right agrees, and mentions that he doesn't understand how pushing those clicky things makes light. Left also says that there are so many lights in the city at night, and she's surprised by all the tall stone castles as well. Right wonders how many lords they have down here, but Yuru clarifies that they're not castles, but homes, since Dara told him that dozens of people live inside each one. Left is clearly surprised by this, and she mentions that there are so many more people in the capital as she thought. Yuru tells her that this actually isn't the capital, and he informs her that Dara told him that in Tokyo, the capital, there are 10 million people. Right can't hide his shock at that revelation, and he wonders how much rice all these people need. There's a lot of people where they are right now, so he's surprised that this isn't the capital. Yuru tries to remember the name of this place, since Hana did tell him what it was. After thinking it over for a moment, he finally remembers the name and informs them that they're in Guntama Prefecture. Left takes a mental note and tells him that she'll remember that, and Right admits that it will certainly be easy to hide with this many humans around. Yuru agrees, saying that the best place to hide a tree is the forest. Left then tells him that amongst all of these humans, he is going to find his sister. Yuru hopes that she's right, and he mentions that Dara and Hana are probably good people, but if they're connected to the deception about her sister and the villagers who kept that secret, he can't trust them completely. That said, he can't trust the woman who calls herself Asa either. Fleeing the village with a child was no small decision, so he wants to talk to his parents in person, and he'll capture that Asa and make her take him to them. Right easily accepts to help him, saying that he hasn't gotten to kill time like this in 400 years. Left scolds him and tells him that he shouldn't say that when their master is serious about this. Right just asks her how she feels about it, and Left says that she doesn't like being chased because it's her nature to do the chasing. Yuru is kind of terrified by her expression, but he doesn't say anything about it, and Dara later informs him that Hana found a place for them to live. Yuru notices his phone, clearly having no idea what it is, so Dara tries his best to explain how it works, saying that it's for sending messages like a smoke signal with letters or his voice. His explanation is not the best, but Yuru, Right, and Left easily believe him, now thinking that it's something like a smoke signal. Once they finally get to the apartment, the three of them are really surprised to see what those stone castles are like on the inside. Hana informs them that the power and water are set up, and someone will come to turn the gas on later. She tells Dara that he can use the Western-style room, and Yuru can keep the room with tatami, since she assumed he would prefer that. Yuru is completely awestruck when he sees actual tatami in his room, because at the village, tatami are only used by Asa or for special events. Dara asks him if they don't use goza mats for that, but Yuru ignores his question and enjoys the tatami, saying that it's such a luxury. While he lays on the floor, what looks like a cat and a dog come to greet him, patting him on the head. This clearly freaks him out, so Hana apologizes and introduces them as Kotetsu and Jiro. Right and left hear the whole ruckus and decide to walk into the room to see what's going on. The two of them politely kneel down and make Yuru do the same, introducing themselves and telling Kotetsu and Jiro that they're the demons of the boy they'll be looking after. Dara enters the room and mentions that these are Hana's demons, though he's never met them before. Yuru doesn't understand what's going on, and he tells him that they're just a dog and a cat. However, as soon as he says that, Jiro scratches him and Kotetsu punches him in the stomach, having no mercy. Right scolds him and clarifies that they're not like other dogs and cats, and they'll be looking after them, so he should give them a proper greeting. Hana then explains that these are her demons, Zenko Koro, Tiger at the front door, and Wolf at the back. Yuru nervously greets them, now feeling slightly scared of making a wrong move. Hana later informs him that since they know Dara's family name, they'll use hers from now on, which is Dano. Dara apologizes and thanks her for that, and Hana asks Yuru to also use that name. Yuru is just kind of shocked to know that they both have family names, because it makes him think that they're from great families. Hana clarifies that everyone has a family name down here, so it's pretty normal, but Dara mentions that she's got her own mountain and everything. Yuru is even more shocked by this, since it means she's a land baron, but Hana quickly tells him that she just inherited it. She mentions that no one maintains it, so it's overgrown, but it's not like she can sell it. Yuru casually asks her if he can go hunting there, but she asks him not to act like he's just picking wild vegetables. Dara informs him that he needs a license to hunt down here, and he needs a license to drive those metal horses as well. Yuru can't help but complain, saying that everything down here is a pain. While he learns more about the world, Asa is somewhere else, learning to use her power with more control. By flicking her fingers, she manages to peel a small part of an apple, barely making it move. However, by using her whole hand, her power is capable of making some rock pillars explode in a second. She soon gets frustrated because her power is not working the way she wants, so she has to keep trying. Her training is interrupted by her master Gonzo Kagamori, who decides to see how she's doing, but Asa apologizes because she keeps damaging his yard, and her accuracy still needs work. He tells her that it's fine as long as she doesn't kill anyone, so she must keep practicing. Jin proceeds to clean the mess she caused with that explosion, having his demon eye swallow all the debris. Once that's done, Asa asks them if she can do anything for them, and Gonzo clarifies that they're here to see Gabby. When they show up in her room, Gabby tells them that they didn't have to come see her, since she's feeling pretty good, thankfully. Gonzo is glad to see that she's alright, and that her demon, Gabriel, is also doing fine. Asa offers her the apple she was using for training, though she only then realizes that she forgot to bring a knife. Jin calls his demon again, but this time he uses Makoto, making it spit out a knife for her. Asa thanks him and accepts the knife, but Gabby reluctantly asks her if she expects her to eat an apple cut with a knife that came from who knows where. Jin tries to reassure her and tells her that it's fine, since he thinks it hasn't been used to stab anyone. That's not that reassuring at all, but Gabby still eats the apple afterwards, and Gonzo asks her to focus on recovering for now. He also asks Asa to stay with her at the mansion, because if word spreads that she and her brother have left the mountain, people will come looking for her. He explains that there are people within the Kagamori clan who want her for themselves, so she'll be safer here, while Jin looks for Yuru. Asa accepts his orders, but Jin then confesses that he doesn't even know what her brother looks like. Gabby scolds herself, saying that she should have taken a photo back then, but Asa simply grabs a pen and a piece of paper to draw Yuru's face in a matter of seconds. Jin immediately discards the portrait, saying that she's biased, but when Gabby tries to draw Yuru herself, her art skills don't help at all. Surprisingly, Gabriel's art skills are much better, so Jin tells them that he'll start by looking into Tadara. Before he leaves, Asa warns him that her brother's demons have keen noses, keen enough to identify people by the smell of their blood. Gabriel gives him another drawing of right and left's faces so he can identify them, and Jin is still shocked by those art skills. Later at night, back at the apartment, Hana notices that Dara has shaved his facial hair, and he explains that they already saw his face, so he needs to do everything he can to disguise himself. Hana just complains though, saying that he lost the only thing that made him look like Jason Statham, so now he's worthless. Dara gets a little sad after hearing that, since he just got married and his wife's already emotionally abusing him. He later asks her where their son went, and Hana informs him that Yuru went for a walk because he wanted to check out the area. Dara asks her if she really thinks he'll be okay, but Hana reminds him that left and right are with him, so she's sure he'll be fine. Leaving that aside, he asks her if she's seen his machete, because he's sure he left it by the door. Hana tells him that she hasn't touched it, so Dara starts wondering how far he went. When he turns back, he sees a completely furious Hana, so Dara tries to reassure her and says that if the cops find him, they're looking at a Firearms and Swords Control Act violation. Hana still seethes with rage because she told Yuru to stay out of trouble, and now they don't even know where he is, and there's a missing machete in the house. Meanwhile, Yuru is simply admiring the world below with his demons, noticing that the starry sky reaches the ground, making everything look big and open. Right admits that it feels like it's impossible to find one person in this vast world. Even so, Left clarifies that if Asa is looking for them, then he'll run into her eventually, so he doesn't have to worry. Yuru decides to ask them if they can sense other demons, since they sensed the goddess Oshira. Right and Left affirm this, and Yuru mentions that they also know the smell of the self-proclaimed Asa's blood. He explains that Dara said the Kagamoris have multiple demon wielders, so they're looking for a place with a lot of demons, and that smells like his blood. Right and left soon understand what he wants to do, so they immediately tell him that they can do that. Without wasting any time, they transform into their most pure demon form to enhance their sensitivity. Once that's done, they take him flying into the sky with them. But Yuru just screams in panic the whole way. When they finally land, Yuru instantly throws up, but right and left are still focused on their mission, and they inform him that they can smell blood like his and a handful of demons. Left asks him if they can beat them down if they show up, but Yuru tells her that they could be open to talking, like the goddess Oshira. Left clarifies that he shouldn't measure all demons by human standards, because in general, they live in different worlds, so he can't expect to fully understand each other. Yuru thinks he understands, saying that he should think of them as bears or boars in that case. That's not exactly what they meant, but Right suddenly senses a scent coming from inside the buildings. They waste no time and silently sneak into the building, where they see Jin walking with some of his subordinates. Right mentions that they reek of demons and Asa, and since they have noticed them, their demons should have noticed them too. Yuru can't see anything though, since the people in black are simply humans. Just then, they see Asa walking towards Jin's group, and her face makes Yuru remember all the disaster that happened in the village. Without thinking, Yuru takes hold of the machete he took from Dara and immediately runs towards her. Right quickly tries to warn him that it smells like old blood, so that's not really Asa. The warning comes too late though, because before he knows it, Yuru is swallowed by Jin's demon. The anglerfish slightly opens its mouth to let Yuru see, and Jin shows him a vial of blood, saying that he heard his demons have keen noses, and since he reacted to this Asa, then he must be her twin brother. With this confirmed, Jin calmly introduces himself and tells him that these are his demons, the scavenger. In the meantime, Hana panics in the apartment, saying that they must find Yuru as soon as possible. Dara agrees, because Yuru doesn't know the rules, so he could end up hurting someone down here. Hana cuts him off and admits that that's one of the reasons, but she warns him that Yuru could get hurt too. Dara is a little surprised by that, so he tells her that she's being pretty nice for someone who said she doesn't like kids. Hana gets even more frustrated and reminds him that Yuru doesn't have a family register yet. Dara can understand that, since Yuru just came off the mountain, though it takes him a bit to understand the gravity of the situation. A few seconds later, he realizes that it means Yuru doesn't have a health insurance, so they have to cover 100% of his medical bills. Now Dara is paralyzed in panic, but Hana wastes no time and asks Jiro to track Yuru down, giving him one of his coats so he learns his scent. Jiro clearly dislikes the scent, but after learning it, he quickly runs outside to track him down. Hana then asks Kotetsu to track Jiro via satellite, though Dara is kind of impressed to see that her demons can use modern tech. She explains that they've been passed down for generations and lived here for so long that they've adapted. Hana really trusts her demons, but she loses all her cool when she realizes that Jiro is all the way in Tokyo. Dara silently wonders if Yuru is lost, or if he has some specific purpose. While they try to figure that out, Jin calmly tells Yuru that Higashi village wants both twins too. However, they just attacked their village, and he's on the run, so they surely wouldn't come for Asa now. He couldn't rule out that they would expect them to let their guard down and strike though, so he prepared for that possibility, and by coming to them, he saved them the trouble of looking for him. Yuru uses the machete to try to escape, but he soon finds out that the anglerfish's teeth are harder than he thought. Right and left remain hidden, wondering what to do, but they know that Jin and the others don't have weapons, because they don't smell metal on them. Even so, Right does sense demons, and there are two more pairs besides Jin's demon. They're most likely hiding and waiting to see what they'll do, so it's risky to just go out there without a plan. After thinking about it for a moment, Right and left decide to show themselves, but Haruo Kuroya, one of the demon users, asks them to stand back and warns them that they have their master. Despite his warning, Right and left completely ignore him and continue walking, deciding that they should take Jin hostage. Yuru apologizes to them and admits that he lost his temper, but Right clarifies that he doesn't blame him, and left asks him to stay where he is. After all, by staying there, he's locking down that troublesome-looking demon. With this in mind, Yuru decides to listen to her and stays where he is, while Jin is confused to see a demon giving its master orders. Haruo is just as confused, because demons should prioritize protecting their master. Right just laughs and tells them that they do things their own way, and as he approaches him, Left asks him to go easy on them since they're unarmed. Jin then gives the order to Makoro, and the demon suddenly spits a bunch of different weapons. They soon start firing guns, and Yuru instantly notices that these are the kind of weapons they used when they attacked the village, so he asks Right and Left to watch out. However, both Right and Left don't understand his warning, and they simply stand there as the bullets hit them, doing nothing to their bodies. Left reminds him that they're made of stone, so something like this won't harm them. One of the demon wielders then uses what they think it's some kind of matchlock firearm, even though this weapon has a lot more impact. Right and Left only find it annoying, and they just stay right where they are. Haruo uses something even stronger than that, but Right withstands it like it's nothing and tells him that something like that won't work on them. However, Jin makes Makoto expel a heavy stone lantern that hits him right on the face, taking him off guard. Jin and the other demon wielders use all the weapons they have, though most of them break as soon as they hit their bodies. Right mentions that they're armed to the teeth, so there's no need to hold back now. Left agrees, and the situation starts looking looking bad for Jin and the others, so Haruo decides to summon his demon, making a giant tortoise fall on Left. Right doesn't even have any time to worry about her because a rabbit suddenly tugs at his pants to call his attention, and it then starts fighting him without mercy. Its speed doesn't let him react in time, and the rabbit is more skilled than he thought, so he asks Left to give him a hand. However, Left apologizes and explains that she can't move because the tortoise is really heavy. While they try to deal with these troublesome demons, Yuru assesses the situation to come up with a plan. After thinking it over for a few seconds, he jumps into action and throws the machete right at the tortoise's head, taking the weight off Left. Without wasting any time, Left immediately jumps high in the 8 and asks him to move, so Yuru gets out of the way as she breaks the anglerfish's teeth with a strong kick. The poor fish screeches in pain, and Left admits that it's not as tough as those other teeth she fought against last time. Yuru takes one of the broken teeth and uses it as a lance, throwing him directly to Akio Kuroya, another demon wielder. Akio stops the tooth with a hand right before it reaches his face, but Yuru takes the opportunity to run and asks Right what they must do before leaving after using the latrine. Right remembers the rules right away, knowing that they must extinguish the lights. He uses his power to make all the light bulbs in the place explode, leaving everything in darkness. Haruo's demon can't see anything, but it informs him that it can sense Yuru's demons moving away from them. Haruo thinks that they got away for a moment, but Jin quickly discards the idea because Akio's demons are lying in wait. He perfectly remembers Asa's words because she said that her brother has the mind of a hunter. Just as he remembers that, Yuru appears right behind him and attacks him with the machete. Jin is barely able to dodge that attack, but when he summons Makoto to bring some light to the place, Yuru is already pressing the blade against his neck. Right and Left finally return once they see that the plan worked out, though Haruo asks them what kind of demons abandon their master and run. Right clarifies that he doesn't know about them, but this is how they usually operate. Left agrees, and as they walk to Yuru's side, she explains that they can do as they please as long as they get the job done. Yuru is a little confused, so he asks them if it isn't normal to run when they can, since he wouldn't want all of them to get wiped out. Jin admits that he's got a point, and Right informs him that Yuru is the twin of the night, so the darkness is his hunting ground, and he can manage just fine without their help. Haruo quickly changes his mind when he realizes that they've got total faith in their master, and he now thinks that it's kind of awesome. Right and Left clarify that if Yuru hadn't caught them, they would have done it anyway, because they can follow their scent in the dark. Jin then understands that growing up on the mountain made their senses keener than theirs, which makes sense. Yuru leaves all that talk aside and asks Jin if his clan attacked Higashi village, since he said that he is a Kagemori. Jin remains silent for a moment, but he then confesses that he was responsible for the attack. Haruo and Akio fear for his life, as Yuru is clearly affected by that statement, but Left keeps them at bay. Despite all his rage and frustration, Yuru manages to calm down and asks Jin to tell Asa to come here, because he wants to talk to her. Both Akio and Haruo are a little confused when he says that he wants to talk to her instead of taking her away, and Jin asks him if Higashi village doesn't want both twins. Yuru clarifies that that's not of his concern, because he came here on his own today. Jin tells him that he should come to the Kagemori manor in that case, since Asa has been wanting to see him too. Yuru tells him that that would be like walking into a bear's den, so he has to tell her to come here, and he doesn't have a choice. Akio drops his weapons and asks him to wait, because he wants to at least stop Jin's bleeding or else he'll die. Yuru notices the bleeding wound on Jin's leg and mentions that he made sure not to kill him, but he still allows Akio to treat it. Jin asks him if he cut shallow on purpose, and Yuru explains that he could tell that he wasn't trying to kill him. After all, if he was, he wouldn't have held back either. Haruo listens to their conversation, completely terrified, and thinking that mountain folk cut off from modern civilization are scary. Deep down, Yuru knows that if Jin had meant to kill him with his first attack, he'd be dead already. Right and Left quietly assess the situation, knowing that the anglerfish belongs to Jin, and the hare and the tortoise are Haruo's. Left mentions that there's another pair somewhere, and Akio tells her that they're his. Right asks him why he didn't use them, and Left assumes that they're not suited for battle. However, Akio clarifies that they've been here the whole time, but they're just too big to fit in here. All Yuru, Right, and Left look out the door just then, and the only thing they see is a giant eye, completely wide open as it stares at them. This leaves them all frozen in place, so Jin speaks just then and clarifies that he's not bringing Asa here. He assures them that no harm will come to them if they come to the Kagemori manor, so there's no need to be on guard, because they should know by now that he doesn't want to kill Yuru. Yuru gives it some thought, knowing that Right and Left would have a tough time fighting their demons, including that thing outside. With this in mind, he decides to give in and tells Jin that he'll go with him, so he can't be rude to Right and Left anymore. Jin easily agrees and assures him that they all will be treated as guests. Yuru asks him to take them to Asa already in that case, but Jin tells him that they need to clean this mess first. That's another job for Ai, who soon becomes big as it swallows all the mess of scattered weapons and debris on the floor. Haruo mentions that Scavenger always makes a terrible mess, though Yuru doesn't know what he's talking about, so Jin explains that they're nature's janitors. While Ai eats everything, Makoto produces those things at will, so he regularly feeds them all sorts of useful things so he can be ready for anything. However, since they're janitors, he sometimes feeds them things the world's better without, so they're quite convenient for several things because with Makoto, he doesn't get caught caught by security. Yuru mentions that he said a lot of words he doesn't know, but he gets that they're convenient, at least. Left decides to ask Haruo how many kan is that tortoise, and Haruo assumes that she means how many kilograms it is. He clarifies that he never weighed them, so he doesn't know for sure, but all he can say is that they can get even heavier. Left stares at the tortoise for a moment and simply walks away, saying that she requires more training. Haruo is kind of amazed to see how disciplined she is, but his hair, on the other hand, decides to mock Right, easily riling him up. Right asks Yuru if he's good at hunting rabbits, but Yuru clarifies that he uses traps for them because they make a good broth. Haruo hugs his demon in fear and yells at him, calling him barbarian, though Akio wonders if demons can even be eaten. Just then, a security guard enters the place, so Haruo and Akio approach him to inform him that all the lights suddenly went out, which is quite inconvenient. The guard soon notices that all the lights are broken, so Haruo tells him that they perhaps short-circuited. He mentions that it really scared them when they suddenly started crackling, and the guard easily believes their story, so he guides them to a stairwell where the lights are on, saying that they can exit through there. Everyone thanks the security guard, though the poor man can't see the great amount of demons surrounding Yuru and Jin's team. Meanwhile, as she tries to get some sleep, Asa receives a message from Jin and immediately jumps out of bed to wake Gabby, saying that Jin is bringing her brother to the manor. Gabby is kind of shocked by how fast that was, but she's more surprised to see Asa completely freaking out over this, wondering what she's going to do or what she's going to wear. While she tries to figure it out, Jin decides to make a phone call to inform that he's settled matters with the Higashi village twin, and they're now on their way to the manor. Gonzo is really glad to hear the news, and he asks him if he could have him wait until he gets back. Jin asks him where he is exactly, and the old man cheerfully informs him that he's at a hot spring. He mentions that he thought he could take an after-work bath, but he'll head straight back to the manor. After a while, they finally arrive at the Kagamori clan home, though Right and Left can't sense any demons around, even though they heard that the Kagamoris had several demon wielders. Jin clarifies that there are actually plenty around, but they're just not in the VIP area yet. As they approach a gate, he informs them that the edge of the barrier is up there. Yuru remains silent as they advance through the dark place, and as soon as they go through the gate, both Right and Left can sense the exact moment they go through the barrier. They find it completely unbelievable, because there are demons everywhere now, and there are so many they can't even tell how many pairs there are. Gabriel soon informs Gabby that Asa's brother is in the manor, so Asa excitedly asks her if she wants to go with her. Gabby quickly rejects the idea and clarifies that she doesn't want to see the guy who put 2 holes in her body. She also mentions that it still hurts to walk, so it's not like she can freely move around yet. Asa tells her that she'll be back later in that case, so Gabby wishes her good luck and decides to go back to sleep. In the meantime, Jiro stays outside the barrier of the manor, and Kotetsu shows Hana Yuru's location now. They notice that it's a big building, since it's a big plot of land, though they're not really sure what it is until Kotetsu shows them that the area is called Kagamori Park. Hana painfully complains and asks him if he thinks Yuru got caught, though Dara tells her that he hates to think that something like that could happen with Right and Left accompanying him. Either way, he has to go pick him up like a good father, so there's no use in questioning anything right now. Hana asks him if he wants her to drive, but Dara reminds her that they don't know they're associated yet, so he'll take a cab to the place. She then asks him how he'll get back, and Dara tells her that he'll take the train because it'll be a social studies lesson. Meanwhile, Yuru is completely amazed to see how huge the entrance to the manor is, and Right agrees with him, saying that it looks like a castle on the plains. A man named Asuma Kagamori approaches them, saying that he heard that the other twin was coming, so he came to entertain him. Jin clarifies that he didn't tell him about that, but Asuma simply smiles and explains that he's got really good hearing. He's surprised to see that he can't walk very well, but Jin assures him that it's not a serious injury. Asuma looks at Right and Left and assumes that he got into a fight with them, since they're magnificent demons. He sees Yuru and assumes that he's Asa's brother, so he decides to kindly introduce himself. Just then, Asa comes out of the mansion and runs straight to Yuru, wanting to confirm that he's really alive. Once she does, she immediately tears up and asks him if she can hug him, but Yuru instantly rejects her. Asa covers her face and apologizes, saying that she doesn't know how close they are anymore, though Yuru can say the same. He clarifies that he didn't come here to make friends, but rather because he has questions for her. Asa easily complies, saying that she'll answer all his questions, though she asks him if she can hug him once they're done talking, and Yuru refuses once again. He tells her that instead of obsessing over him, she should be worried about Jin's injury, since he can't even walk properly. Asa is shocked to see Jin's injury, so she tells him that he needs to get to the infirmary immediately. Asuma mentions that given Jin's condition, he can show them around the manor. Asa is surprised to see him there, and Asuma realizes that she's really blind to everything except her brother. Jin firmly tells him that Yuru is their guest, so they have no business with him. Asuma accepts the warning and decides to take his leave, asking Yuru to make himself at home. Jin then asks Akio to stay outside the barrier, saying that he can't let anyone in, and he asks Yuru to stay close to him while he's inside the manor, or else he'll get lost. After that, Jin heads to the infirmary, and Dr. Sakurazawa tells him that he's going to need stitches. When Jin tells her what happened, she's surprised to hear that he got cut by a kid with a machete. She now understands why she was woken up in the middle of the night, and she thinks that teenagers these days are really scary. Jin clarifies that normal teenagers don't wield machetes, but Yuru tells him that every young boy has a machete variety or two, and Asa agrees with him. Haruo once again feels terrified by these barbarian siblings, but Jin completely ignores that and returns Asa's blood to the doctor. Sakurazawa asks him to try not to walk around with that stuff because it's unsanitary. Yuru quickly complains when he sees the blood, saying that only fiends draw blood from living women and children. Asa clarifies that it was actually her idea for Jin to take it, since modern technology allows them to draw only the needed amount of blood without cutting veins. Yuru is clearly confused by this, and it makes him wonder if they use some sort of magic to achieve that. Jin informs him that they had her blood drawn here in this infirmary, and Sakurazawa shows him a small syringe, explaining that they poke a person with it and draw their blood out. Asa clarifies that it doesn't even hurt when done by someone skilled, so he doesn't have to worry. Yuru still doesn't understand how this medicine stuff works, and Haruo can't believe that he's fine with violence, but drawing blood upsets him. Asa also mentions that the Kagamori clan feeds her well, so drawing a little blood doesn't hurt her. She stares at him for a moment and asks him if she can hug him now, but Yuru instantly refuses yet again and proceeds to complain, saying that she's huge in comparison because the Asa he knows is smaller and cuter. Asa tells him that he'll grow bigger too if he eats the food they have down here. Yuru still tells her that the food here is salty and too strongly seasoned, but Asa explains that she's used to it already, so it's normal to her. Despite all his complaints, Yuru does admit that the rice is really good, though he quickly realizes that he didn't come here to talk about food. Asa agrees, knowing that he has questions for her, so she excitedly asks him if she can hug him once they're done talking. Yuru admits that she's determined, but he still rejects her yet again. Even in the midst of their bantering, Haruo can see that they seem perfectly in tune with each other. Yuru doesn't waste any more time and approaches Asa with a serious expression, asking her where their parents are. Asa is clearly shocked by the question, but Yuru insists and asks her to let him see them because he knows that they fled the village together. Asa gives it some thought and then confirms that they did flee the village together, but their parents are not here. When Yuru asks her where they are, Asa confesses the truth and informs him that they're missing, so she doesn't know where they are. Jin decides to speak, though he asks Asa how much he should tell them first, and she asks him to tell them everything because she doesn't want to lie to her brother. After thinking about it, Jin explains that a lot happened after their parents left the village, and it was some time after the Kagamoris took them in. They had settled into their new lives, so they decided to visit their mother's home. Yuru just then remembers that his mother did tell him that she was originally from down the mountain, and she also said that she wanted to take him there. Jin informs him that his mother is from Okinawa, and Asa explains that Okinawa is an island far to the south, so they have to take a plane or boat to get there. She quickly explains what a plane is, and Yuru is surprised to know that what he thought were dragons are actually vehicles. Asa tells him that planes can carry about 100 passengers, and down here, people thought their mother had gone missing in some mountain in Tohoku, so she wanted to show her parents back home that she was okay. They left her with the Kagamori clan, and on the plane to Okinawa, their parents suddenly vanished. Yuru is shocked by the information, so he asks her if they fell from the plane, but Asa denies it and clarifies that they just somehow vanished during their flight. They definitely boarded in Tokyo, but they weren't on the plane when it arrived in Okinawa. Jin mentions that a reliable Kagamori demon wielder was assigned to guard them, but their guard disappeared with them, so they don't know what happened. Yuru questions the whole story, asking questions to no end, and saying that the guard should be suspicious in that case. Asa agrees with him, saying that they could have been an enemy pretending to be an ally, and they could have been a Higashi village agent who infiltrated the Kagamori clan. Jin clarifies that it was their mistake, whatever their allegiance, so he apologizes for that. Yuru ignores him and asks Asa if she can really trust these guys after they let their parents go missing. Asa explains that after they left, assassins from the village came for them one after another, and it was ultimately the master of the Kagamori clan and Jin's people who saved her, so she trusts the Kagamori clan. Yuru can't say anything to that, and the room goes completely silent for a moment. In a change of scene, we hear a conversation between several unknown voices, and they talk about the fact that Yuru entered the Kagamori manor, so Jin did very well. They're the first twins born in the eastern village in 400 years to sunder the night and day, and now both of them are down here. Another voice mentions that the Jaw Demon girl's mobility is limited due to a leg injury, and Jin is injured too. The master is also away right now, so this is a golden opportunity, because they could seize both twins at once. The other voice clarifies that the boy and his demons are quite capable, but it's true that the girl is weaker during nighttime. The voice from before says that it's fine if the boy dies now, because they only need the girl's head. Right as they finish their conversation, both Right and Left immediately sense that something's wrong. Left quickly opens the curtains, and two big demons break through the windows of the infirmary. Gabriel gently pulls Gabby's hair to wake her up, and despite how confused she is at first, the situation is very clear when she sees the giant demons lurking in the shadows outside her room. She obviously doesn't recognize them, so Gabriel immediately grows, going into defensive mode. Meanwhile, Asa, Yuru, and the others quickly run away from the infirmary, and Right is forced to carry Jin on his shoulder since he can't use his leg. Yuru complains and accuses Jin of lying because he really did lead him into a trap after all. Jin clarifies that those aren't Kagamori demons, so outsiders have entered the manor apparently. Left just asks him if they can defeat those demons, but Jin tells her that he would like to capture their master. Right tells him that it'll be hard to find them in this huge manner, but Sakurazawa just asks them to make sure they're dead if they're killing them, because she doesn't want to have to treat them. Haruo can't believe that she calls herself a doctor with that mindset, but Yuru only asks what happens to demons when their master dies. Haruo explains that if they're not transferred to a new master before their death, they become stray demons, which is why demons usually prioritize protecting their master. When a demon's contract expires, they're bound to that location like ghosts, and if they're forgotten and a new contractor never appears, they vanish after a few decades or centuries. Yuru admits that it sounds rough, so he'll try not to kill their master, though Haruo is horrified to know that he was going to kill them in the first place. Yuru stops for a moment to ask Jin if his demons have a bow and arrows, and the next second, Makoto spits out a bunch of different kinds of bows, including some advanced ones. Yuru doesn't even know what to do with them, because he's never used weapons like these before, but he wastes no time and grabs the most simple-looking bow, aiming directly at the enemy demon's head. Surprisingly, the arrow he shoots veers towards the ceiling, completely missing the demons. Yuru realizes that this bow will need some adjustments, so everyone soon starts running again. While they try to evade the demons, Jin makes a phone call to ask Gabby if there are any assailants where she is. Gabby admits that something attacked her, though she's mostly just annoyed about it. Jin explains that they're currently battling demons he's never seen before, so she asks him to take care of them already. He clarifies that he's currently injured and has limited mobility, but that only annoys Gabby even more, and she tells him that he's basically useless now, but he has to protect Asa no matter what. Jin informs her that Yuru and his demons are taking care of them, and since she remembers right and left very well, Gabby admits that they'll be perfectly fine in that case. That means that she doesn't have to worry, and she's free to do what she wants. Jin gives her permission to do so Gabby closes her hand and makes Gabriel decapitate the demon they're holding between their teeth. The second demon tries to escape, but Gabby clarifies that she feels bad about leaving it all by itself, so she'll do the same she did to its friend. After taking care of these demons, Gabby walks outside just to see a bunch of other demons lurking in the shadows all around. She's not even fazed by this, so she just tells Gabriel that they'll get an extra large late-night snack tonight. While she deals with that, Jin informs Asa that Gabby seems to be fine, which makes her feel relieved. Asa then decides that she's going to stop the demons chasing them, though Yuru asks her if she can really do that. Asa asks him if she can hug him if she does, but Yuru quickly denies it, saying that she would probably break his ribs. Leaving that aside, Asa apologizes beforehand if she wrecks the manor, but Jin tells her that he'll bear the brunt of the master's rage later. Haruo also apologizes in case he wrecks the manor, but this time, Jin tells him that he can bear the master's rage himself. Haruo complains and tells him that this is obvious discrimination, though there's nothing he can do about that. The demons quickly catch up to them, so Asa asks Yuru to distract the white one. Yuru already knows what he has to do, so the two of them abruptly stop to fight the demons. However, when the two demons fuse, both Asa and Yuru suddenly disappear from the room. The demons then try to escape, but Haru's tortoise pins them on the ground with its weight in a second. Haruo clarifies that he doesn't know what happened, but if they can make people disappear, then they might know something about Asa's parents. The tortoise's weight makes the demons break through the floor of the manor, so Jin warns Haruo that he can damage the place, but he must not kill them or their master. Haruo's hair informs him that they're surrounded by enemy demons, so he tells Jin that he needs him to handle them. Even though he's injured, Jin has no choice but to take care of these demons because the master, Natsuki, and Fuyuki aren't even back yet. He asks Sakurazawa where Hagure is, but she warns him that he's sleeping after a deadline, so if he wakes him now, he'll kill him for sure. Jin then understands that he'll get no reinforcements, so it all depends on him and his demons, and they'll have to do their best. Meanwhile, Asa panics when she notices that she's in a place where everything is pitch black. She tries to call for her brother Jin or the others several times, but no matter how hard she tries, she gets no answer at all. After a while trying, Asa finally comes to the realization that she's completely alone, and that makes her remember the little girl she saw in Higashi village. Asa's hands start trembling, and she braces herself in fear, but Right speaks from the shadows and lets her know that she's not alone. His voice actually scares her to the point of screaming in fear, but Asa quickly realizes that it's her brother's demon, though it's too dark to see anything. Right clarifies that he can't see anything either, but he's right by her, so this is truly darkness, because it doesn't even get this dark in Higashi village. Even though he can't even see what's in front of him, Right is able to smell an unpleasant sweat, so he assumes that Asa is afraid of the dark. Asa thinks about that little girl behind the cell again, and she confesses that she hates being alone in the dark. Right uses his sense of smell to easily find her in the dark and give her some head pats, asking her not to worry because she's not alone. Asa actually feels better thanks to that, but she then remembers that Yuru was with her, so she asks Right if he's somewhere inside this space. Right tells her that he doesn't smell him nearby, so he's probably somewhere else. Asa then asks him why he's not helping him, and Right clarifies that Left must be with him, so they'll figure something out for sure. He then explains that he actually followed her because he wanted to talk with her. After all, when they first met in the village, she suddenly attacked him, and she hasn't said a word to him since he arrived at the manor, so she must know that he's her natural enemy. Asa remains silent as she tries to find the right words, because back then, he somehow countered or cancelled her power. After thinking Thinking about it for a bit, she tells him that when he neutralized her break, she remembered that her father said that right and left can stop break and seal from getting out of control. Right is glad that she understands, because that makes things easy, and it means she should know that he is her natural enemy. Asa quickly understands that if her brother acquires the power of seal, then left will become his natural enemy. Just then, left lands right next to Yuru in a completely white space and tells him that this place is totally empty. She tells him that she's lived a long time, but she's never experienced this before, so she has no idea what this is. Yuru mentions that there seems to be a ground, but this bright white is making him lose his sense of balance. Left explains that while she was flying earlier, she ran into some kind of ceiling above them, so it feels like they're inside a spherical barrier made by those demons. She also doesn't smell or sense anyone besides them, so Yuru decides to ask her to help him adjust his aim while they're here, because he doesn't want to waste time, even though he doesn't know what's going on. His father told him to always keep his tools in good shape so he'd be ready to fight anytime. Left asks him if this confusing situation doesn't scare him, but Yuru clarifies that nothing has made sense since the village was attacked, so he's gotten used to being confused by everything. Left kind of feels bad for him, so she decides to help him, and Yuru asks her to just stand there and raise the machete, because that'll be his target. Once she does this, Yuru aims the bow at the machete and shoots, but the arrow ends up hitting Left's head instead. She's not even fazed by this, but Yuru freaks out and asks her to at least try to dodge them. Left explains that if she does that, then she'd have to go pick up the arrows, and that would be a pain. She reminds him that she's made of stone, so he doesn't have to worry. With this in mind, Yuru tries one more time, but the arrow hits her head again, and he immediately apologizes. He quickly inspects the arrows and tries to figure out what's wrong with them, but Left asks him if he shouldn't be worried about his sister. After all, she was swallowed by the black barrier at the same time they were. Yuru reminds her that Asa has the power of break, and if these are barriers, then there's nothing to worry about. Right when he says that, Asa manages to break out of the barrier with her power, and without waiting any time, she decides to use it to break the demons' contract with their current master as well. The demons stop moving after this, and Sakurazawa gives Asa the vial with her blood. Asa is a little surprised to see that she held on to that after complaining about how unsanitary it was, but she wastes no time and throws the blood at the demons, letting them know that they're getting a new master. The demons are surprisingly friendly as soon as the contract is formed, so Asa wonders what they're called. She gently caresses the demons and tells them that they'll be spending some time together now. Asa then tells them that she needs them to do something for her right away, and she asks them if they swallowed her brother. When the demons confirm this, Asa completely panics and asks them to spit him out right now. They easily comply, so when Yuru and Left finally leave the barrier, they immediately try to fight the demons again. Asa quickly stops them and informs them that they are on their side now, and Haruo explains that since they can instantly make people vanish, their master might know something about their parents. Yuru instantly stops after hearing that, so Asa approaches the demons to ask them where their previous master is. The demons easily accept to tell her, so Haruo is actually terrified to see that she's making demons sell out their old master just like that. Sakurazawa agrees, and once again admits that teenagers these days really are scary. The demons quickly guide Asa to where their previous master is, but she can't see anything due to how dark it is. Despite this, Yuru immediately shoots an arrow into the darkness and manages to hit the man's shoulder before asking Right to get him. Haruo is even more shocked than before, and Asa is just fascinated after witnessing how amazing her brother is firsthand, so she's really glad he's alive. Meanwhile, Jin apologizes to some of the residents for the commotion in the manor, and he warns them that non-combatants should remain hidden in a safe place until they've taken care of this. As he advances through the manor, the hidden assailants wait for him to fall on their trap, since they're planning to blow him up from below. However, Makoto anticipates their actions and spits out a grenade at the assailants hidden underneath the manor before they can even attack. Jin continues walking like nothing happened, and Ai makes sure to swallow all the demons coming at him. He soon finds one of the assailants and quickly eliminates him, realizing that he doesn't recognize him either. Gabby then approaches him and informs him that she killed about 5 groups of wimps and didn't recognize any of them. Jin tells her that none of them have been particularly strong either, and she agrees with him. Just then, another assailant falls right behind them with an arrow on his arm, and they definitely don't recognize him. Jin pins him down, but the man desperately tells him that those dentures got his demons, so he surrenders. When Jin sees the arrow on his arm, Jin assumes that Yuru was the one who attacked him, though he doesn't know where he's shooting from. Yuru is actually on the roof of the manor, watching the surroundings like a hawk and attacking any assailant he sees. One of the assailants quickly hides behind some bushes, knowing that if he takes Yuru head on, he would shoot him dead before he ever gets in range. They also got the others, so he decides to call it quits, because he'd rather not get hurt. He should have known a hastily thrown together team wouldn't stand a chance anyway, so he'll just leave while he can. One of the assailants carelessly tries to escape through the gates, but just there, Akio's demon is waiting for anyone who tries to flee or enter the manor. Akio appears right behind the man, and he's the last thing he sees before everything goes black. The manor is completely wrecked by the time they manage to capture all the remaining assailants, but at least the attacks are over for now. Jin apologizes to Yuru for dragging him into this and thanks him for the help, but Yuru clarifies that he didn't do it for them, and he just did it to find his parents' trail. Gabby arrives just to see if Asa is is okay, but her expression completely changes when he sees Yuru and remembers what he did back in the village. The two of them clearly don't get along, and Yuru clarifies that he let her go back then, but he still hasn't forgiven her. Asa stands between them to ask them to rein it in, and she informs Gabby that Yuru and his demons saved them. Gabby already figured as much, especially after seeing all the assailants they captured, which are quite a lot. They're all way too scared to move, and Wright makes sure to keep it that way, terrifying them with his presence. Gabby asks them what they'll do with them, and Jin tells her that they'll have the master decide once he returns. So for now, they have to extract all the information they can. They start by interrogating the previous master of Ace's new demons, and the man explains that they said they'd pay him a fortune if he captured the twins, but he doesn't know who they were. Since he doesn't have any intention to speak, Haruo decides to go with a classic, and he lets his tortoise fall with all its weight on the man's lap. The man screams in pain, since it feels like a heavy boulder is crushing his legs. Haruo then asks him what group put him up to this, wanting to know if it was a Kagomori. The man desperately screams and tells him that he really doesn't know what group it was, because it was just a one-off job, and he met everyone on his team for the first time, so they're probably just average, ordinary demon wielders. Haruo insists, saying that someone must have been calling the shots, and the man quickly explains that it was some guy with a beard wearing a camo jacket. Akio covers his mouth in surprise and hides his weapon, because it's what he used to hit the man with that exact description. He then tells Jin that he probably took that guy out in front of the gates as he was trying to escape. There's nothing to do about that, so Jin moves on to the next question and asks the man if he knows the whereabouts of the married couple that fled Higashi village. He explains that they're the twins' parents, and they vanished from a flight to Okinawa. The man tries to withstand the pain and tells him that he doesn't know anything about them. Yuru insists, saying that anything might help them find them, but the man clarifies once again that he doesn't know. The other assailants are also clueless, which makes him feel more frustrated, because there are no leads on their parents. Asa apologizes, because she knows that he came hoping to find something. Haruo asks if anyone has more questions for the assailants, and Asa decides to ask for the names of her new demons, since that man was their previous owner. However, the man doesn't even understand her question, because he never gave them names in the first place, since he simply considers them livestock. He just thought he had to show them who's boss so they didn't get carried away, and he wasn't trying to be friendly by giving them names. That statement alone makes Gabby get actually furious, so before he knows it, his head is between Gabriel's teeth, slightly getting pierced by the pressure. Despite how angry she is, Gabby knows that she can't behead him just like that, so she decides to leave without a word, still feeling clearly upset. Haruo now understands why the demons sold out this man so easily, since he treated them like that. The hare informs him that demons have feelings too, and the man is still trembling in fear, realizing what he had done. Haruo tells the other assailants that they should better tell them what they know while they can. All of them nervously tell him that they don't know a thing, and a woman quickly clarifies that she did name her demons. Asa tries to think about a name for them, and the demons happily snuggle up to her, so she reminds them that she's just their temporary master. She soon feels like they're crushing her with their weight, so she asks them if they could make themselves smaller. The demons go back to their original forms, and Asa actually thinks that they're really cute. Yuru just stares at her for a moment, and then mentions that she said assassins attacked her one after another, so he wants to know if it has been like this since she left the mountain. Asa confirms it, but she clarifies that there were a lot of guys this time, so it was a close call, and she's thankful he was here. She explains that she let her guard down because she'd been safe in this place, but she'll be more careful from now on. Now Yuru understands why she's jaded and scowls all the time, and he decides to ask her if the assassins took her right eye from her too. Asa remains silent for a long moment, and after thinking about it for a bit, she says that she doesn't want to lie to him. Asa hesitates at first, and she then confesses the truth, telling him that she died once, and she was killed by a Higashi village assassin. Now we go back in time to see Yuru's past, to the moment he felt another person direct their intent to kill at him for the first time. It was when he was just a kid, shortly before his parents left the village without him. While he's hunting deep in the mountains with his father, an unknown man simply comes out of nowhere and knocks him down, raising a knife above his head. The man just tells him that he is not needed in this world, and Yuru immediately feels that aura of denial penetrating every pore of his body, piercing his skin and stabbing directly into his flesh. Right before the man can actually hurt him, he simply freezes in place and falls to the side, lifeless after Yuru stabs him and an arrow pierces his neck. Yuru stares at the body in panic, and his father, Mine, lowers his bow after shooting that arrow. Once he confirms that the bandit is dead, he quickly approaches his son to see if he's okay, but Yuru is still in shock after what happened, completely frozen in place. Mine notices the blood on Yuru's clothes and hugs him, apologizing and saying that he shouldn't have taken his eyes off him. Yuru is still confused about what just happened, so his father asks him to remember this, saying that this is the intent to kill, and he'll probably experience it again in the future. Mine warns him that as long as he's alive, it will probably be thrown at him countless times, so he must not hesitate against those who direct it at him. Without saying another word, Mine simply pulls the weapons out of the bandit's body and throws it off a cliff. After a while, Yuru somehow manages to calm down a little, and his father approaches him to tell him that they'll head back to the village village after spending the night on the mountain so he can take his time calming down. Yuru tries to calm down and follows his father's instructions, breathing deeply and letting his anxiety out with his breath. Mine explains that there are moments when fear can kill him, especially for hunters like them who fight for their lives against beasts. That's why he must calm down, analyze the situation, and determine what he should do. And he should always consider how he can use the materials at hand to survive. Death strikes where fear makes them vulnerable after all. Later that night, as they camp in the mountain, Mine warns Yuru that he can't tell the villagers he was attacked by a bandit. Yuru asks him why, since the bandit's allies could attack the village, so he thinks they should tell the others. Mine assures him that they won't attack their village, so he can't tell anyone about this, and when they get back to the village, he must act like he always does, as though nothing happened. Yuru keeps that in mind, and the next morning, they are greeted by the villagers when they finally return. They tell them that they were worried when they heard they didn't come back last night, so Mine simply explains that they chased their quarry deep into the mountains. Since he had Yuru with him, they played it safe and spent the night out there. One of the villagers tells him that it's unusual for him to camp out overnight and have nothing to show for it, but Mine simply laughs and dismisses the comment, saying that it happens sometimes. Danji's mother, Kyoka, later greets them, and she's glad to see that they're both okay. Yamaha shows up just then and mentions that they were worried when they didn't come back. With an unsettling expression, she asks them if something happened in the mountains. Mine keeps a composed expression and tells her that they just chased their quarry too far, so nothing happened in particular. Yamaha silently approaches Yuru and asks him if he got hurt, pointing at the blood on his clothes. Yuru freezes for a moment when he remembers what happened, but Mine calmly explains that it's the blood of the rat they ate for dinner last night. He then changes the subject and says that he's hungry, since that rat wasn't nearly enough food. Kyoka informs him that his wife is inside, so Mine takes Yuru with him and tells him that they'll have breakfast together. Yuru's mother, Nagisa, welcomes them back, saying that she was worried when they didn't return. Mine apologizes to both her and Asa, who's currently behind the cell, as always. He explains that they went deep into the mountains and were late coming back, but everything is okay now. Asa just asks them if they're okay, so Yuru smiles and tells her that nothing happened, and he's totally fine. He admits that he was too anxious to sleep while camping out, so he's actually a little tired. Asa gently places a hand on his back and asks him to take care of his body, which makes Yuru smile. Yuru easily cheers up and decides to tell her how hunting was, and their parents enjoy how well they get along. However, as they speak, Mine whispers the truth in Nagisa's ear, carefully explaining what happened in the mountain. Both Asa and Yuru go silent when they see the worry in their parents' expressions, but Mine simply walks out of the room without saying a word. Shortly after that, Yuru and Asa's parents left the village without them, or that's what Yuru had thought, since he was actually the only one left behind. His parents actually fled the village with Asa, and the girl he thought was his sister, whom he lived with for 10 years, was an imposter. For 10 years, the people of Higashi village lied to him, or so the self-proclaimed real Asa said. Back to the present time, Asa lets him know that she already died once, and she was killed by a Higashi village assassin. She explains that they fled Higashi village and evaded their pursuers, then the Kagamori clan took them in. They thought things had calmed down, but then their parents went missing, and last year when she was 15, she was captured by an assassin. She was killed then and gained the power of break. Now we go back in time to see Asa's past, to the very moment after she dies and sees the power of the demon that lives on the boundary between the land of the dead and theirs. She finds herself on a trail of skulls, leading to the demon that has the power of break. This demon is waiting for her in front of a big tree, but Asa is mostly confused because she's sure she was cut by a Higashi village assassin. The demon bluntly informs her that she died, so Asa asks them if this is hell. This place certainly doesn't look like paradise, but the demon asks her why she assumes that she'd be sent straight to hell upon her death. It makes them wonder what kind of life she lived in her world, but they put that aside and explain that this is the boundary between the land of the dead and her world. The demon approaches the piles of books underneath the big tree's roots, searching for something specific. After a while, they finally find the book they were looking for, so they pull it out to read the content and then inform Asa that in her country, this place is known as Yomotsu Hirasaka. Asa then remembers what her father said and mentions what she heard about the village legend. According to it, male and female twins born in the eastern village before and after daybreak, on a day when the day and night are equal lengths, will travel to the shadow realm to command demons. The demon tells her that oral traditions always get distorted over time, and to be precise, it's just before the shadow realm. Asa can't believe that the people of Higashi village actually tried to kill her, but the demon reminds her that she can't come here unless she dies. They ask her what she will do now, and explains that humans who come here have two paths to choose from, so she can remain dead or accept them. If she wishes to die, then she simply has to fall from that path, but if she wants to live, then she must accept them, the power of break, and return to the world of the living. The demon clarifies that this power is convenient because as long as she can see him, she can break the enemy commander's head off his body on the battlefield, so she can end wars by herself. Depending on the era, she could even become a hero, and there are plenty of other ways to use it too. However, in exchange, those who wish to use her will gather around her, and she may experience a living hell, thinking that she's better off dead. Asa clarifies that her personal hell may have already begun, because her parents went missing, and she doesn't know what happened to them. Just as she starts blaming herself for everything, Asa remembers Yuru, and she immediately asks the demon if her brother has already come here, wanting to know if he's been killed. The demon clarifies that they don't know, because when he dies, he'll go to where Seal is, so he hasn't been here, and they don't know what has happened to her brother. Asa falls to her knees, feeling deeply worried and realizing that she can't die, because they left her brother behind in the village, and she doesn't know if he's still alive. Maybe he's been killed, like her, so she has to go save him, and that's why she can't die yet. The demon asks her to choose between life or death, and Asa's eyes give them a clear answer, so they ask her to only look forward as she advances, and to never turn back. Meanwhile, Asa's body bleeds out after one of the assassins from Higashi village sliced her neck with a knife. It's been several minutes, and her body is still motionless, so the man starts to worry because she's not coming back to life. The woman tells him that this can't be right, because they're the first twins in 400 years, and they were finally born. The man clarifies that she could be a decoy prepared by the Kagomori clan, but the woman assures him that she saw this girl in the village, so she's sure it's her. He reminds her that she only saw her years ago when she was just a kid, in a gloomy cell no less, so she couldn't have seen her face clearly. The woman stubbornly tells him that she knows it's her, so the man clarifies that they failed to resurrect her in that case, and they can't get the power of break anymore. Even though they failed, she reminds him that they still can get the power of seal, which is more than strong enough to control the underworld. She also mentions that the brother's completely brainwashed by the village, so he'll definitely obey them, and they just have to kill him as well. While they try to discuss their plan B, Asa suddenly uses the power of break for the first time, easily breaking free from the ropes restraining her. Both the man and the woman realize just then that she has resurrected, but before they can react, Asa uses the power of break for a second time without hesitation, directing it at them without holding back. Meanwhile, Gabby looks for her all over the place, and with Gabriel's help, she manages to find her after a while. When she sees the corpses around Asa, Gabby tells her that she should leave the killing to misfits like them. Asa simply apologizes and clarifies that she didn't choose to be a chosen twin, but now she's following the path she chose, so she'll get her own hands dirty. Back to the present time, Asa's expression turns sad as she tells Yuru the story, and she apologizes, letting him know that the perfect, little, adorable, and innocent Asa he knew is gone now. Meanwhile, Gabby gets to her room with Gabriel and sees an ox and horse figures on the floor, completely torn apart. She inspects the figures that resemble the demons she defeated and mentions that they're old but well maintained, so they must have been well loved. Without saying a word, she carefully takes them outside and decides to properly bury them in the garden, placing a stone on top of them. With everything that happened, it is already daytime, so she mentions that she's hungry and wonders what's for breakfast. Everyone in the manor are busy cleaning the mess of last night, but before they can continue with their duties, an unexpected visit shows up, cheerfully greeting them from outside the gates. After a while, Akio opens the door and sees Dara, who introduces himself with his real name and says that he's here to pick up Yuru. Jin soon receives this information and informs Asa that someone from the Tadera clan is here for her brother. Wright admits that he had completely forgotten about Dara, and Yuru just then remembers that they didn't tell him when they left. Unlike Asa, who fully trusts the Kagomori clan, Dara thinks that they're a pain, and Hana said that she'd rather not get involved with them for some reason. Yuru doesn't know what to believe himself, but he thinks it would be best to hear out both sides at the same time. After thinking about it for a bit, he asks Jin to let Dara come here, so Jin orders Akio to bring Dara to the entrance, and he specifically asks him not to kill anyone this time. Akio assures him that he won't, and he reminds him that he already said he was sorry. As they walk towards the entrance, Asuma approaches them and mentions that the mansion is quite a mess, so he wants to know if something happened. Asa casually greets him, and Jin calmly explains that a number of external demon wielders entered the mansion and went on a rampage. Asuma admits that that must have been difficult, and Jin reproaches him for not coming to help despite the disturbance. However, when he asks him what he was up to when everything happened, Asuma simply smiles and explains that he was sleeping. That answer only increases Jin's irritation, because he can't believe that he didn't hear the commotion even with his keen hearing. Before Asuma can make up another excuse, a guy called Hagira Hikaru approaches them, surprised by the whole mess in the mansion. He dodges the fallen debris on the floor to get to them, and then asks them what happened here, wanting to know if there was an earthquake or something like that. Asuma calmly repeats what Jin said, and explains that a number of external demon wielders targeting the twins attack the mansion. Hagor instantly worries about Asa, asking them if she's okay, so Asa shows up and lets him see that she's alright, though she apologizes for the disturbance. He sighs in relief when he hears that, but Hagor just then realizes that they mentioned both of the twins. Seeing his confusion, Jin clarifies that Asa's brother is here too, and Hagor is just glad to know that Asa finally found her brother. He kindly greets Yuru and tells him that he's heard about him from Asa, but just then, he notices the intimidating demons behind him. Right and left glare at him without mercy, leaving him frozen on the spot, so Asa introduces them to him, saying that they're her brother's demons. Hagor is still pale and terrified, but he forces himself to greet them properly, saying that it's nice to meet them. Later, when he finally calms down, he apologizes to Jin for being unable to help him when he was in trouble. He explains that he crashed after his deadline, so he had no idea and was very exhausted. Jin dismisses the apology apology, asking him not to worry about it, and he congratulates him for meeting his deadline. Hagor mentions that this is bad though, since they had a barrier around the mansion to keep outsiders away, and yet they were able to break in. Jin agrees with him and says that it makes them wonder when and how they got in. He clarifies that they'll interrogate the ones they captured again with certain methods. Hagor still feels bad about the whole situation, because this all means that the mansion isn't safe anymore, and he won't be able to rest easily now. As they finally reach the entrance, Hagor sees his father's car approaching, and Jin tells the others that the master has returned. Gonzo steps out of the car and mentions that it seems like they ran into some trouble while he was not around. Dara also comes out of the car and greets them, and Jin can't hide his shock when he sees that he was in the master's car. Ignoring his obvious shock, Dara casually introduces himself, and Gonzo simply explains that they ran into each other earlier, so he decided to give him a ride. He calmly explains that he's Tadara Ryu from the Tadara clan, and apparently he's also Yuru's guardian. Dara greets Yuru with a smile, asking him if he's okay, but before he can answer, Gonzo approaches Yuru and kindly introduces himself, saying that he's the head of the clan. Yuru doesn't exactly know how to react, and Gonzo isn't even fazed when he sees his demons, so he casually greets them as well and mentions that he has heard about them too. He admits that his demons sure are impressive and then laughs loudly, making it clear that he's comfortable with the situation. However, unlike Gonzo, Jin can't help but be on guard when he sees Dara, since he knows that he's from the Tadara clan, retainers of Higashi Village. They serve as liaisons between Higashi Village and the outside world, so they're a very cautious clan that has never shown themselves to them before. That only makes him wonder what one of them is doing defenseless in the middle of enemy territory. Right discreetly asks Yuru if he thinks the Kagamori and Dara could be working together. Yuru easily denies it and explains that he can feel that the old man and Jin genuinely want to kill him. Right suddenly sees the tension in the air and wonders what the Tadara clan could possibly have done to the Kagamoris to make them react that way. Yuru calmly tells Dara that Asa told him that he would acquire the power of Seal if he dies, and he probably knew about that. He asks right and left why they didn't tell him either, since they also knew about it. Dara clarifies that he just heard the village legend, but he doesn't know the details. The only thing he knows is that he's a kind and caring brother, so if someone did something to Asa and blackmailed him, he would throw his life away. Knowing that he can die once and be fine makes it easier to act recklessly, and that's a dangerous way to think. Right warns him that there is no guarantee that he'll come back to life, and Left reminds him that they're the first Higashi Village twins in 400 years. That's because one of the last twins didn't come back to life. Everyone goes silent after hearing that information, but Gonzo breaks through the silence and clarifies that this isn't a conversation to have standing around, so they should talk over breakfast. He orders the mansion staff to prepare breakfast right away, and he laughs as he assures Yuru that they won't poison it or anything. Dara cheerfully thanks him for the meal, saying that he appreciates it, and Asa is just happy to know that she'll have breakfast with her brother.